Woo doggy, we are 2 days away from a brand new year. We have just come off of Christmas, and now, ladies and gentlemen, y'all already know what time it is. I am QuaMonstarG. We are your keys to the MulDiverse. Welcome back one more again on the eve of New Year's to MulDiversity. We have a singular topic on docket tonight, and it is about the latest and greatest, some people's opinion, we'll get to ours in a hot second, DCEU film Wonder Woman 84. That is what you're going to get from pillar to post, and cannot wait to express how we feel on this. But I'm not going to take up any more of y'all time.
Parachute pants?
Yeah.
Does everybody parachute now?
So let's talk about Act 2 of our Retooled Wonder Woman 84 movie, shall we? Because I think we all can agree that when it comes to the second act, the movie could have definitely done a much better job in presenting a very high stakes, yet very much 1980s storyline that really gave all of the characters their shine. So for these characters, let's throw in some of the recurring cast members and some very new faces. You know, obviously Diana and Barbara and Max need to be there because we want to keep those three, you know, in the movie because they are inherently strong characters, you know, period. And, you know, we don't want to lose them. But let's talk about the many new characters that will be in this second act. Let's first start off with Lionel Luthor, who is peak greed is good, yuppie, the type of person who would invite you to their condo and then murder you with an axe businessman. You know, basically everything Lex said about him in his BVS monologue.
No man in the sky intervened when I was a boy to deliver me from daddy's fist and abominations.
And that goes a long way in establishing just how much of a shithead he really is through his demeanor, his predator and prey mentality, and the way we see his wife. You know, for scenes that we see her, we can see how visibly shaken she is, you know, to show the signs of the abuse, as well as, you know, him very much being very disgusting and nasty to her in terms of correcting her speech and whatnot. So, yeah, Lionel Luthor, the shithead that you expect him to be, and, you know, obviously we'll get some Lex Luthor hints and clues here and there. Yeah, we're going to have Maxwell Lord actually be a closer example to Maxwell Lord as much as possible. You know, he's a laid-back, intelligent wild card. You know, grew up in Chile in the 70s, and he left when war broke out. He got out of there after that when he was in his teens. He envied people like Lionel and Diana because in his eyes, they represent, rather, the American dream. They represent all of the things that growing up in war-torn Chile, that's what he wanted the most, and he views them as the epitome of that. He is the leader. Like, obviously Lionel will think because of his status and his ruthlessness that he's the leader, but it's Maxwell Lord that's really influencing everything, pulling the strings, if you will, you know, pushing people to do his bidding. And then, of course, you'll have Dr. Poison, Isabel Marue, returning from Wonder Woman 1. She wouldn't have aged because of all the experimentation she's done on herself. And, you know, she would have been in World War II, continuing from what she left off in World War One. Tongue twister. She was in WW2, and now she's in technically WW2, Wonder Woman 2.
Aha! Aha! What do you know from funny, you bastard?
Of course, Diana will be there to remind her, you know, you worked for the Nazis and all of those things. Dr. Marue would try to, you know, deflect and say, nah, that ain't it, you know, but, you know, they still will have a mutual distrust of each other, as they should. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of it all. Let's talk about what is actually going to be in this second act of the film. Diana is focused and reserved around Cadmus because, you know, traditionally Cadmus is very duplicitous, very much a, let's call them, what, not Men in Black, but yeah, I guess we can call them the Men in Black to a certain degree. Not in the, oh, they're cool, heroic badasses in black suits, but rather the way they operate in a clandestine cloak and dagger-esque way that really just suits their interests. And S.H.I.E.L.D., you know, S.H.I.E.L.D., because Cadmus is always meant to be a parallel to S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't know why I just didn't say that from Jump Street, but yeah, you know, that is how she is around them. And of course, Barbara, looking for that friendship between Diana and herself, will constantly try to get her to open up. And, you know, speaking of which, you know, can't forget Amanda Waller. She's obviously going to be a part of this since it is Cadmus. And, you know, basically her and Barbara will be pitching the concept of this whole team to Diana. Like, you know, the A-Team meets Miami Vice. And the base will be at Lionel Luthor's mansion. So, you know, a lot of parallels here if you're picking up what I'm putting down. So, you know, throughout the process of Barbara opening up to Diana, you know, she will like start to admit how much she idolizes her and how Wonder Woman is a representation of hope and optimism. There goes that phrase again. In this world, despite the dark times, a feminist icon, a legend compared to the boring and depressed human that she is. You know, we even see that jealousy of Diana being able to reinvent herself constantly. You know, maybe we'll see some Easter eggs to, you know, her old, you know, her white outfit when she's not Wonder Woman, or, you know, just straight up the mod chic look she had in the 70s where she just flat out wasn't in costume anymore, which, you know, y'all can discuss in the comments how y'all personally feel about that era, because I know that's can be seen as pretty divisive now. So yeah, Diana is obviously flattered because she's very good-natured, but she still refuses to open up her heart anymore because of what happened all those decades ago. We start getting into the exposition phase, you know, Lord explaining, you know, that Cadmus is, its mission statement is to protect the world, you know, of beings. You know, not super beings or anything like that, but just beings. Everyone is on their radar. You know, anyone is capable of upsetting the balance of the world. And Cadmus is your first, last, and only line of defense, it looks like, against those individuals. And the US government particularly is not sure about the initiative. They are very skittish around them. And as a result, Cadmus, despite its grandiose ideas, it needs funding. So what do they do to rectify that? Well, Maxwell Lord goes and have a meeting with the president, you know, and as you do, he says that, you know, the data of security is very important. So Obviously, he says that Cadmus is the only one that can accurately produce that, the only ones that can accurately do what needs to be done and secure what needs to be secure. And y'all are gonna have to sit down when I tell you this, because you're gonna stand up at Maxwell Lord's amazing show-stopping, never the same idea to do this. He begins to pitch, picking off world leaders one by one.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
What?
He's accused of inciting World War III, obviously, because that is a, let's call it a brash and bold idea. And he's laughed out of the office, essentially. Like, come on, dude. You want to kill off world leaders in the midst of the Cold War? You know, for those who, you know, a little bit of history, the 1980s was kind of like the last / most heated era of the Cold War before the 90s ended it, because, you know, nukes were popping up everywhere, it seemed. And, you know, you were either on this side and this side or this side. And while the mutually assured destruction that was prevalent in the 60s weren't as high in the 80s, that fear was still there. As a result, they go to their second plan, another plan, really, to prove their worth in the eyes of the government. And that is, they launch an operation to find the head of Hecate. And allegedly, it can grant wishes. So there we go. We have our mission statement for our pseudo team, and basically they go about producing how to, you know, secure the head. So we have a montage at this point, you know, because it is the 80s, and what's more 80s than having a montage in a movie? And, you know, obviously it won't be like your traditional montage, but the thematic element of a montage in an 80s movie, that cannot be overstated how needed that would be, you know, to still pay homage while also being subversive. The stingers is that to each country they go to, their representative leader end up dead. And as a result, Diana becomes concerned after learning about this via the news. You know, she's been on a wild goose chase as they kill off their enemies. So basically it's one side going to these countries, and then these leaders are ending up dead. And then you have Diana elsewhere following her own leads to try to secure the same deal. You know, she keeps this to herself for now because she's still very much, rightfully so, untrusting of her compadres, her compatriots, Babs, Barbara, and Minerva. She is the one to finally find the head in the Ukraine, and it's an amazing feat. But unfortunately, her work is overshadowed by Diana's wisdom, which would probably, you know, be along the lines of, let's reconsider what we're doing. Let's, you know, take a step back. Let's get a full scale viewpoint of everything so we know exactly what we're doing, how we're doing it, etc., etc. And Lord convinces Diana that Russia plans to start World War III. That's the ticket. Yep, definitely meant World War III and not Wonder Woman 3. Or maybe I did. But yeah, that of course galvanizes Diana to spring into action. At Vanessa's house, Diana explains she's missing dinners and how she'll be gone a bit longer for a mission, which, you know, doesn't sit well with her daughter, Helen, which, you know, as we have established, Helen is a person who looks up to Diana. She is the kid. She's the kid viewpoint. I think that's the correct terminology. I'm not a film major, even though I want to. Maybe, kind of, sort of. Enough about me. Let's get back to Helen. She views Diana in a similar way to Barbara, but times 100. She's, you know, this is a superhero, a real life superhero who can do anything, stop anyone, and will always win. And of course, as any kid would tell you, especially in the 80s, a good superhero needs a good kid sidekick, and Helen wants to be that. She wants to be Diana's sidekick, and she says, I want to go with you. And Diana, being Diana, says, no, it's too dangerous, you can't do it. But of course, since this is a movie set in the 80s, and once again to pay homage in a way while being subversive to 80s films, you know, you have the kid who disobeys the adult and goes on the mission anyway, you know, stows away, a la, you know, Indiana Jones and, you know, babysitting, Adventures in Babysitting, The Goonies, whatever, you know, Mac and Me, you know, the GOAT 80s movies. And, wow. And we all should know where that's going to go. Waller and Luther tell Diana that once the head is found, she can have her picture, you know, which is what Diana wants the most. She needs that, you know, for the emotional, sentimental value that it obviously will have. So the two Cadmus leaders set up in a laboratory and watch from several cameras, which, you know, that is quintessential, at the very least, Amanda Waller sitting back and surveying the whole operation from her safe and secure room, you know, like we've seen many times. So Maxwell, Maru, and Barbara find Hakete's head, and they push Barbara to be the one to do it because this is her victory. She found the head. She's the one who basically set everything up for success. She's the one that did what was supposed to be done. She is the hero, finally. So they push her to do it, and yet she still hesitates. She still has that hesitation. She still has that reservation, as if like she's trying to really understand if she deserves this or not, if she needs this or not, if she is the one to do this or not. And Lionel, being the dighead and just the disrespectful, misogynistic douche he is, he gets on the walkie-talkie and he berates Barbara until she finally relents and she gets it. She takes it. The key phrase he says to her is that, you know, this is why I'm the predator and people like you are prey, because only I have the conviction to get what I want. And only you will never, ever, ever do what it takes to survive. And in her anger, she grabs the head and demands that she is seen as a predator. And boy, oh boy, does she get her wish, because then we are finally introduced to the cheetah. Elsewhere, however, Diana, sent on another wild goose chase by design, she doesn't find the head, but instead finds, drum roll please, that is added in this post editing that I know it is.
It's time for the moment you've been waiting for. Duh.
Okay, I'm assuming that the drum roll was put in there. A preteen Donna Troy, because Amazons age so slowly until they stop aging at all, walking around the Ukraine dazed and confused and unsure of how she got there. And Diana, obviously seeing another Amazon out here in man's world, knows that she needs to protect her, deviating from the mission. Lord returns to the lab and decides to hold the head hostage, you know, like straight up crazed, cool, calm, and collected, holding up hostage. You know, a lot of barbs thrown back and forth. You know, basically him finally showing how in control of the situation he's always been. And he cites that the U.S. government doesn't deserve the power. He decides that because of them laughing him off, that that they scoffed at him, and him knowing what needs to be done but being rejected, he finally decides these people, I'm not going to trust them with my vision. I am going to execute it myself. He makes a risky wish with Hakete's head to become what the world needs. And then, as a result, he turns into a living computer. An OMAC, if you will. You know, he becomes, immaculate.
What?
I'm holding for the applause and laughter that I know you guys are having right now. Moving on. And with the thought that means he can control anything. But he can't concentrate, unfortunately, in his brand new rush of power. He just is overwhelmed and he triggers a nuclear disaster. And what is the most significant 80s nuclear disaster? Why, it is none other than, unfortunately, the Chernobyl incident, and Maxwell Lord is the cause of it. And Diana, since she's there, she does everything in her power to prevent the carnage. Everything. This is No Man's Land 2.0, but even more emotional than that. And, that would be saying a lot considering how emotional No Man's Land 1 was. But this would be its natural progression, and it would be upped considerably. And Diana and Donna, too, they are trying to save as many people as they can, but there are so many. And suddenly, Cheetah enters the scene and starts helping her. She's quick, she's skilled, she's the new and improved Barbara Minerva, as we all wanted and see. And Diana is uneasy still. She's still very much uneasy because she is glad that she's getting more help, but then she sees what Barbara's become, and now her mind is racing. After everything is said and done, it seems like the day is saved in the quintessential 80s way. But then, again, here's another trope of the 80s that is being used in a subversive nature. In 80s movies, the second act tend to be the where the gut punches land the hardest. And there's not going to be any harder of a gut punch than finding out that poor Helen, she was not one of the people rescued, and she suffered grave injuries in the Chernobyl incident, and it actually exasperated her disease. They rush her to her nearest hospital, and it's really not, unfortunately, anything that can be done to really, really help her. And as a result, she rejects Diana for her failure. This would be the seeds planted for her to return as the Silver Swan in Wonder Woman 3, because this is Diana's, ultimate failure. And it's, again, a subversion of the 80s kid sidekick and nothing happening to them. They, recklessly followed the hero, and usually nothing happens to them. But this time, something did, and it can't be undone. Now, after that terrible, sad development, they return to their home base. Cheetah, of course, expects praise from Diana, finally getting her flowers, so to speak. Finally being able to, be seen as an equal to Diana and being seen as a success. And Diana's concerned. She's just concerned about Barbara because she's a completely changed being because of her wish. And, this literally sets Barbara off. This sets her off completely. She says that Diana's just jealous because she's not the only one with power, and a whole tirade that just basically shows just how far Barbara has fallen in her pursuit of power. This leads Diana to deduce that this is because of Kate's head, and as a result, she's like, no, it's time to wrap it up. It's time to close the book on this. I need to destroy the head, so maybe your condition is reversed and we can stop all of this before it gets any worse. And this makes Barbara nervous because she doesn't want to lose this power. She doesn't want to lose any of this. She doesn't want to lose her newfound power and confidence. She can't go back to the old Barbara where she was ignored and couldn't exert herself in the way she wanted to.
While people like me have had nothing. Well, now it's my turn, and you are not taking it from me. Ever.
Before things get heated, Donna freaks out because she sees Maxwell Lord. And then, after a brief exchange, Diana used the lariat of truth, the lasso of truth, on Lord, and then she gets the truth. Turns out, Lord and Moreau, they found the mascara. And with a bunch of men, they took Diana. They kidnapped her, and they all made it out alive. And that's a scary thought. So who knows what they brought to the island to take what they want. And Maxwell starts revealing the true length of his plans by saying once they found the head, that it was going to be free reign for them, because that's the real reason they went to the island. They went there to get the head. They went there to find out where the head was, rather. Diana, she is horrified because now she realizes that she was the only loose end. Now that they have the head, they're not going to let her leave alive because she's the only one that can stop them. And Max is like, yes, once you're out of the way, then I can start another world war and be the only superpower. Diana has heard enough. She plans on just straight up murking all of them, but Barbara finally steps in and they fights. Boy, do they have fights. And for lack of a better term, Barbara whoops Diana's ass. She completely overpowers and outmatches Wonder Woman, completely tearing her shield that she carries with her like it's nothing more than a paper towel. And it's a bad look for a good old DP. That's for sure. Y'all are gonna be sick when y'all see this metaphorically. I speak as if we're making it, and hopefully we do. Or maybe y'all can see it in your mind's eye. Luthor, Waller, Maru, Maxwell, and Cheetah, who also takes the lasso of truth as a trophy. Escape. We reach the point where the heroes have to come up with a new plan to stop them. Donna says, look, I can get you back to Themyscira so you can get the shield of Astrid, and then you'll be able to stand a chance and can finally put the stamp on these clowns and win the day. And they're like, wait a minute, how were we supposed to get back to Themyscira? Well, let's talk about that divine intervention real quick. Let's talk about how Zeus, in wherever ethereal place he is, hears the plan and starts casting down lightning. Lightning that, because Donna, who had her own lasso but kept it a secret, once she realized just how bad the situation was and how duplicitous all of Diana's teammates, I use air quotes when I say that, are, well then, let's just say she goes about it and she says, yeah, I got something. And they start riding that lightning, and peak 80s over the topness back to Themyscira. And then at that point, they finally make it back there and they lay low because, Diana is technically banished and, Donna needs to help her first and foremost. So they lay low in Themyscira so they can reach the temple of, Asteria. And, they see the shield. And this is the shield that we see her use in BVS and ZSJF. So that's how we tie that whole situation in a bow. And as Diana reaches for it, Lieutenant Penelope and a couple of Amazons enter with swords drawn. And Diana hears this. Diana, daughter of Hippolyta, you disrespect our grounds. You know the law of trespassing. And reluctant Diana fights the Amazons. She said, no, I don't want any prime discounts. Except for these 2 hands I'm going to give y'all. And boom, Bob's your uncle. Donna tells Diana she did the right thing and she will join her. And suddenly an army of Amazons enter ready for battle. But they're stopped once Hippolyta enters and recognizes Diana and recognizes what needs to be done. Diana stares in mutual disbelief, however, because it's like, damn, I ain't seen you in a minute. And so, it's very tense. It's very sad. They have an exchange. My queen, but then Hippolyta stops and says, they would have killed you if I hadn't stopped them. Leave. And then, Diana and Donna leave the island. It's very sad, very somber, but know what they have to do in order to save the world. And that's Act 2. That's what you'll be getting in Act 2. That is what you will be experiencing in Act 2 if we had our way. But this is just our point of view. You're going to be getting the third act in the next story, the next episode, if you will. I said that twice, and I'm going to say it a third time, the next episode. But in any case, this has been your boy QuaMonstarG. Thank you for watching Act 2 of Wonder Woman 84 Retooled. Hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that notify bell to know when we go live. And I will see y'all later. Peace.
To make it a place worth living. You watched it. You can't unwatch it. Stay tuned for more Tales of Interest.